So if there are questions, we've got about a quarter of an hour to go through them. I think to see if somebody's got a question, you have to raise your digital hand so I can see who to call on for the question. So has anybody got any questions for our speakers to begin with, to initiate the session?
If not, I would like to just make a comment on Kevin's performance here, because he really brought us into a new world. And I think what we are talking now today about is children, but we want to think that these children who grow up with music actually project into wonderful adults who are respectful, who are actually empathetic, and they know what discipline is, what talent is. They know what things are important, what are the important things in their life. And I think if we had more of those adults, we would have a much better world. So thank you, Kevin. It was very inspiring.
Indeed. Thank you. So, more questions or comments?
I'm looking for the digital hand. It has moved.
It
has moved.
Yes, it's moved.
No, sometimes when you do like that, the hand goes up. You know, the artificial intelligence. Along the same. May I raise my real hand then, if I cannot find the other?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. That actually very much along the lines of what Kevin said and about Luisa Lopez's comment. I wanted to ask Kevin if he already knows what will happen between him and music next year, in 3 years, in 5 years. So, because we have noticed that during the pandemic, especially, the kids who couldn't play together were missing something. Now you can play together, you can practice, you can be on stage, you can travel. But besides that, what do you feel is there for the future?
Sorry, could you ask that question again? Sorry.
Yes. Besides what you told us that music has brought to you in the past and in the present, can you already feel what it will bring to you in the future?
Yeah, music. So music in the future, I feel like there's a lot of young kids that are already very good at the music. And I think in the future they could take it very far, and I just want to see music just grow, because at this point in time, music is not even that big. It's still quite small relatively, and I just want it to grow, make music a bigger thing. Because if I talk to my friends about music, they think about pop, everything like that, nothing about classical music. And I think classical music is very heartwarming and can touch on emotions that other music can't.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think there were other.
I've got a question for Emmanuel, if you don't mind, Emmanuel. You brought in the question of emotions. Why is it, do you think, that educational policies across the world are so focused on the intellect and measurable achievement and forget the emotional, when, of course, emotional life is what makes us human? How can that unbalance be rebalanced?
So I don't know if I have the answer to that question, but I think for children it's very important that the adults are able to be closer for their emotional life. As adults, we have developed skills to control our emotion, but the children are not supposed to do such things. And if we behave only on an intellectual level, we are far away from the world of the child. And I think for an educational issue, it's a problem. Music helps us to recover the emotional mode of communication, which is more natural for child. And as soon as an adult start to be emotional with a child, the connection is much better. Maybe as adults we are afraid about this emotional nature, and there are a lot of teachers, for instance, that don't want to do music with a child in school because they are afraid to be ridiculous. And there are a lot of intellectuals, notably in France, that behave that emotion is the bad part of humanity, that intellect is much better. And when we speak about the effect of music with that people, they don't like our discourse because we are too much emotional. And so I don't know, depend maybe on some style of Western style of life. Emotion is not considered as something important. Now we have read from Damasio that it is a wrong way to behave, that the brain is supposed to have a good connection between cognition and emotion. And I'm sure that it will change the life. But for the children, it's very, very indispensable that adults who take care of a child are able to enter at the level of the emotional mode of communication of the child. Otherwise, we are not connected to the child, and education cannot occur in a correct way.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sorry, it's Fernando here from
Yes.
Portugal. Can I just say something? I work with elderly in dementia and palliative cares. And this, I listened now that Emmanuel said, it's very, very nice. We as an adults, we have this problem of to feel ridiculous, confronting our emotions, yeah. But when you work with elderly, with dementia, this ridiculous feeling disappears, and it's very, very important to connect with their youngness, and it's very powerful. It is a very powerful tool. I use a lot music, and when I think something from 60s, 50s, 70s, they remember the wife, the girlfriend, the boyfriend, the husband, the time when they was dancing and playing and being more active in the society, and it's very strong. And this is very, very nice to hear from you, Emmanuel. Thank you.
Thank you, Fernando.
Thank you.
Chiara.
Yes, thank you, Christopher. And now, after there is also a question in the chat. But my question to the expert is that one. Is there a specific typology of music or kind of music that have more than the others? For instance, I have my son, 10 years old now, but he started playing guitar, and he started playing rock music with guitar. And actually he loved this more, playing that kind of music than the classical ones. So I was wondering if it's true also that I used to play music on my belly when my two kids were in me, and rarely I played classic music. I always played the music that I love the most. Does this have an impact on the taste of music after? And if there are any typology of music that is better than other to improve those skills that we have heard so far? Thank you.
Emmanuel, do you want to go? And then I can say something.
If you would
Please.
start, please do.
Okay, I will start, and then maybe you can continue. What you said are two things. So you were saying, is there a better music, let's say, and does it change, or does the experience change taste?
Exactly.
So of course, experience changes taste. So the exposure is an alphabetization to some sorts of music. So it does change. But that doesn't mean it is worse or better, or there is a sort of graduality in the senses of music. I think music is all a very good music because it has, every music has some basic features, which is having a melodic context, having a rhythmic context, having repetition, having emotional content. And so I think once you have all these features, you have good music. Of course, there is some contemporary music which I don't like. There is some other kinds of music which might have less of that melodic and less of that rhythmic abilities, features that I am able to perceive and to process. But that doesn't mean that it is not a good music and good to perceive all the things that we were talking about. This is as far as I can say. Emmanuel.
Yeah, there are different types of music because we have different needs, and each type of music responds to a specific needs. For instance, teenager, there is a big change in brain with development of emotion and this energy of life which is occurring, and we can understand that they are looking for energetic music to respond to this change in their brain. And so at that time, this type of rock music, for instance, responds to that need. This doesn't mean that rock music is the only one music able to respond to that need. So you can look, for instance, if you are interested with classical music, which aspect of which pieces in the classical music has this expression of energy, and there are a lot, of course, and you can say, okay, you have a CDC, but you have also this symphony by Bruckner or by Tchaikovsky or by Stravinsky, the Rite of Spring, for instance, which is very nice for teenager. And so you can open the mind, but keep in mind that music responds to a needs, and teenagers have specific needs, and they have specific choice of music. But Alzheimer have other needs, younger children have other needs, and this is why music is so beautiful. There are so many styles in space and time, if I can say that you will always find the style corresponding to the needs, which is expressed by the situation. This is another beautiful aspect of music. So many styles.
Thank you very much. That was really enlightening. That's very helpful. And now, Gianni, you had a question?
There is a question also in the chat, Christopher.
Oh, we'll go to Gianni first now. Look in the chat.
No, I think the question in the chat's been there a long time, but I can read it.
Yeah.
It was a question for Kevin and said, is there any special situation where you feel that playing music gives you a feeling of well-being?
Yeah, to be fair, it's not a special occasion, but so to travel to music for me is about an hour and a bit away, which is very far for me. And then so that after school I feel very tired, and my little brother also goes with me, so you can very tell. So when I'm there at music, everyone's playing together. It gives you a sense of community, and it just lifts up my mood. It just makes me feel happier when I play.
Thank you, Kevin. That's lovely. So if I've just got 2 seconds to ask my question from the researchers as well. I work very much with young children and their parents, babies and very young children. And I have noticed over the years that parents, or mothers in particular, have lost the ability to sing with their children. They put on recordings instead. And it has an effect on children that they kind of switch off. And even when I go into some schools and they do a sort of music session, it's often recorded music, and they might sing along with it, but it doesn't get them excited. And that's something that I've really noticed. Is there research to show how live music is much more important for very young children than recorded?
If I may, I will start and then Manuel can go on. There is a very nice work by Kirchner and Tomasello. He showed a very, very neat example. There was an experiment in which children had to play on a drum together with another person playing on the drum. So the adult was playing on the drum. And then the child was able to synchronize to this and enjoy. Now, the experiment was done with the person, with 2 sticks on a mechanic device that was showing the 2 sticks, and then with a recording. The ability to synchronize was degrading as the person was disappearing. So with the recording, there was no such thing as bonding and ability to synchronize with music. And we hear that more and more. For example, all the experiments where you have teaching of music and children and also language, when there is a recording, in teaching. There is not such experience, and there is no learning, actually. So we are unfortunately very much used to this passive exposure to instruments and to music, and even to nice plays shown on a device, though. And so children are really passive in that. So that doesn't develop that kind of social connection that we were talking about. The pro-social behavior, for example, doesn't occur, while it does occur if you are doing music with the child. If the child is there listening to something and another person is there listening to the same thing, there will not be the same bonding between these two persons, these two people.
Luisa. Laura, you have a question? Laura Fernandez?
You're mute.
Yes, thank you. Hi, I just wrote it in the chat. I'll read it. In the first 1,000 days, is there a difference if a child hears music without words, music in their own language, or music in another language? And because I'm an American, I'm also a clown like Fernando. I work in Germany, and sometimes I sing songs in English or Spanish to little German children. I was wondering if it makes a difference to hear a familiar song in your own language, or if there's also the same effect because it's music that is being played for somebody personally in a close situation.
Well, if I can say that there are some critical periods for development of some abilities. So, for example, the child, when he's younger than, let's say, 8 months, 1 year, or even 2 years, hearing music in another language, let's say, doesn't really make any big difference in the acceptance of that kind of music. And also, the child seems to be able to interact with many sounds, even if they're not in their familiar language. There are some differences, of course. For example, if you sing a lullaby to soothe a child, and this lullaby is in a different language from the familiar lullaby, the soothing effect might be a little bit less than what you would expect. And also, for example, their reaction to stress might be a little bit sooner when they're hearing music in another language. So again, to come back to the things that Emmanuel was saying, there are specific needs. So it's not impossible, of course, to sing music in other languages and to expose children to not only languages, but also cultural, melodic contours, cultural differences in rhythmic content. So there is no problem in that. And actually, children are enriched by that. But if there are some specific needs in that moment, the child needs to be soothed or to be calmed down, or the child wants to, for example, share emotions or so, that might be easier in their own familiar language. It doesn't mean that the other one is not good, but there are needs where your familiar language will be more effective.
Right. Thank you very much, Luisa. Do you want to just add a sentence or two, Emmanuel, before we?
No, I think it's fine. It's complete.
Okay, good. Well, thank you very much, our speakers, for answering the questions and developing this debate. I'm sure we've still got a long way to go.